Mark's life seemed like the embodiment of stability. He was 35, working in a predictable office job, surrounded by the same people and the same routines day in and day out. He woke up early every morning, brewed a cup of coffee, and read through his emails before heading to work. In the evenings, he'd return home to his wife, Anna, who he had been with for nearly 10 years. They had a quiet, comfortable life together in their suburban home, a life many would envy. Yet, as the years went on, Mark felt a growing sense of dissatisfaction, a restlessness that he couldn't quite explain. There was nothing inherently wrong with his marriage. Anna was supportive, loving, and patient. They shared a deep bond, built over years of trust and mutual understanding. Yet, despite the stability and comfort of their life together, Mark felt a certain dullness creeping in. Their conversations, once filled with excitement and dreams for the future, had become mundane. Their days had become predictable. Routines that once felt like a sign of success now weighed on him like an invisible chain. One evening after a long day at the office, Mark came home to find something strange in the mailbox. A letter.
If you like this story, follow our channel. Thank you.
These days, he rarely received anything other than bills or advertisements. But this was different. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar, yet distant. It was from someone he hadn't thought about in years, Simon. Simon had been his closest friend in his early 20s. Back then, they were inseparable. Simon was adventurous, unpredictable, and always ready to push the boundaries of what life had to offer. He had convinced Mark to take spontaneous road trips, explore wild ideas, and live life on the edge. But as the years passed, their paths diverged. Mark settled into a more traditional life with Anna, while Simon disappeared into the unknown, traveling and chasing dreams that always seemed just out of reach. Opening the letter, Mark couldn't help but feel a rush of nostalgia for those reckless, carefree days. Inside was a short but impactful message. Mark, it's been a while. I've been thinking about you. I'm starting something big, something that could change both of our lives. I want you to be a part of it. Let's meet up, Simon. Mark read the letter several times, trying to grasp what Simon was offering. It was vague, yet somehow it stirred something inside of him. What could Simon possibly want after all these years? Why now? And why did the prospect of reconnecting with his old friend feel so tempting? That night, Mark couldn't sleep. Thoughts of Simon and their wild past clouded his mind. He remembered the excitement of their adventures, the late nights spent planning grand schemes, and the intoxicating sense of freedom they once had. But he also remembered the reality that followed. Simon's unpredictable nature, his tendency to drop everything and move on when things got too tough. Mark had chosen a different path, one grounded in stability and responsibility. Yet here he was, holding a letter that seemed to open a door back into a world he had long since left behind. Days passed, but the letter stayed with him, its words echoing in his mind. Mark found himself distracted at work, replaying memories of the past. He became quieter around Anna, and though she didn't say anything, he knew she could sense that something was off. He didn't want to burden her with his feelings of discontent, but the weight of it was becoming harder to bear. Finally, unable to resist the pull of the past any longer, Mark arranged to meet Simon. They agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown, one they used to frequent years ago. As Mark walked in, he felt a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. The cafe hadn't changed much, though the faces inside were unfamiliar. He spotted Simon at a corner table, looking just as he remembered, though perhaps a little older, a little more worn from the years, Simon stood up and greeted him with a broad smile, as if no time had passed at all. "Mark, my friend, it's been too long." They embraced, and for a moment, it felt like they had never been apart. But as they sat down and began to talk, the differences between their lives became clear. Simon's energy was still infectious, but there was a sharpness to it now, a sense of urgency that hadn't been there before. Simon quickly got to the point. He was starting a new venture, an international business that would take them to different countries, meeting new people, and living the kind of life they had always dreamed about in their youth. It was risky, yes, but the rewards, according to Simon, could be enormous. "This is it, Mark. The chance we always talked about. A life without limits, without being tied down to a desk or a schedule. You and me, back on the road. What do you say?" Mark sat there, listening to Simon's pitch, feeling the familiar tug of excitement. He had always admired Simon's ambition, his refusal to settle for the ordinary. But now, with Anna waiting for him at home, with a life that was built on structure and responsibility, the decision wasn't so simple. For days after that meeting, Mark couldn't stop thinking about Simon's offer. It felt like the kind of opportunity he would have jumped at in his 20s without a second thought. But now, in his mid-30s, with a wife and a life he had spent years building, he wasn't sure if he could take that kind of risk. He began to withdraw from Anna even more. She noticed the change in him, how distant he had become, how distracted he seemed. One night, as they sat in their living room, she finally confronted him. "Mark, what's going on? You've been acting strange lately. Is something wrong?" Mark didn't know how to answer her. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to admit how torn he felt. So he deflected, telling her he was just tired from work, that everything was fine. But the truth weighed on him. He was living two lives, the life he had with Anna and the life Simon was offering him. Finally, after weeks of inner turmoil, Mark knew he had to make a decision. He couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. One evening, as they sat down for dinner, he told Anna about the letter, about Simon's offer, and about the conflict he felt inside. Anna listened quietly, her face unreadable. When he finished, there was a long silence between them. Finally, she spoke. "Do you want to leave?" Her question cut straight to the heart of his dilemma. Did he want to leave? Did he want to throw away everything they had built together for the chance at something uncertain, something that might not even work out? Mark didn't know how to answer. He loved Anna, but he couldn't deny the pull of adventure, the desire to reclaim a part of himself that had been dormant for so long. "I don't know," he finally admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what I want anymore." Anna nodded, her expression calm but distant. "I can't make this decision for you, Mark. But whatever you choose, you need to be sure. I can't be with someone who doesn't know where his heart is." That night, Mark lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. He thought about the life he had with Anna, the stability, the love they shared. And then he thought about Simon's offer, the excitement, the possibility of living without constraints, of chasing something bigger than himself. In the morning, Mark sat down at the kitchen table, 2 letters in front of him. One was addressed to Simon, the other to Anna. He knew that by the end of the day, only one letter would be sent, and the course of his life would be forever changed.